Hi, I'm Ron Kubitz. I'm here at the PHRA annual conference, and it's my pleasure to be here with Curtis Midkiff. He is the Director of Social Engagement for Society of Human Resource Management. Just gave an excellent talk on social media. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Great to be
have
back.
you here.
Great to be back.
Why don't you just take a few seconds and explain what exactly do you do as the Director of Social Engagement for SHRM?
My responsibility, Ron, is to continue to take a leadership role in kind of the direction that we're going as an organization, to use some of these external platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube as a way to better engage our members. Primarily to engage our members, and then kind of on a secondary place to really introduce and increase awareness of the SHRM brand and participate in conversations that are happening about SHRM on these other networks to hopefully bring them back to the SHRM platforms.
Okay, great. So you're using it to communicate with your audience, and also do you use it for your internal SHRM?
We do. We use a couple networks internally. We use SHRM Connect, which is also an external network that we developed. My colleague Ann Margaret Olson leads that team, which is kind of our own proprietary network for HR professionals to talk. We also use Yammer internally as a great communications tool, strictly for internal communications, to kind of encourage employees to chat with one another, to collaborate on projects, and also just to engage shared interests and other matters.
That's great. Now, one of the things you cover in your presentation is, briefly some of the legal aspects you talk about, but more importantly, you talk about what you can share, what you shouldn't share, how some people don't even have access to social media.
Right.
How do you want to convey, how should we as HR professionals convey to our management the value we can get out of using social media, and why it's important to us if their answer is no?
Well, I would, number one, you have to put it in business terms, because a lot of CEOs are just learning social media. A good analogy would be if you knew that some talent that you were looking for was across the way in DC, and you needed a plane ticket to get there. Management would get you a plane ticket to get there. So social media is another bridge and another avenue to transport yourself to the places where you can find this new generation of talent, and that's how you have to bring it. Especially, we talked a little bit about kind of the long-term business ramifications. As you look at the workforce, and the statistics show the workforce is aging, and next, boomers are retiring in record numbers, so you're going to have to fill that pipeline of talent. And this talent is speaking, communicating, and participating in social networks. So, companies that are not there, you can also point to your competitors. It's more than likely that if you're not there, your competitors that are competing for the same talent as you are on those networks. So you need to be there.
Okay, great. Now, you talk obviously about the millennials. Some of the studies that I've read recently is a lot more of the boomers and some of the older folks that are using social media as well. What has your experience been for some of maybe the older age levels?
They're adopting social media in great numbers. They're really getting into it. It was interesting. I was talking about spending some time with my family over the weekend, and there's multi-generations represented. Everybody from fiance's father to her nephew. We're all using iPads and using this technology. So I think that technology has actually brought the boomers into it, because they actually like these iPads and like these various computers. And so once they get the technology, they're like, well, how can I use it? Tell me about this Facebook. A lot of people get into Facebook in that generation because they want to connect with their kids or connect with their grandkids, and they're finding that it's a great way to communicate. So I love it that boomers are using it.
That's great. That's a great point. Along those same lines, the theme here for our conference this year is change, evolve, and grow.
Right.
How do you see how either HR changing, evolving, and growing going forward, or even social media changing, evolving, and growing?
I think it goes hand in hand. I think that HR has the potential, social media notwithstanding, HR has the potential to always be leaders at the forefront of where a company is changing and how they're evolving and how they're growing. Because at the end of the day, change, evolution, and growth are powered by people. No matter what, a social media platform is nothing without people using it or operating it. So HR helps bring in those people that help the companies grow. So I think that HR will continually be there. HR professionals just continually need to do the great things that they do, and really, I think they should grasp social media, because at the same time, it'll make them an even more valuable resource in the company, because companies haven't adopted this all the way. So there needs to be pockets of professionals in the organization, and HR has a great applicable use for it. So they should become more knowledgeable about it, because then they can bring in those people, those millennials, those next generation that can help companies change, evolve, and grow.
Okay, good. Speaking of changing, evolving, and growing, you mentioned when you were here last year, you couldn't really talk about your favorite football team,
right?
Because they weren't really doing much. This year they're doing a little bit better. Hopefully, the Redskins.
Yes.
Hopefully, Griffin's not hurt too bad from he got hurt last week. So, have you? I know you were here last year speaking, and did an excellent job. Have you been to Pittsburgh a bit, or just more?
This has been my extent.
Okay.
This has been my extent. So I've spent more time in this area, the suburban area, than I have in Pittsburgh.
Obviously, there's a lot of social media platforms, and they all serve their purpose. Do you have a favorite yourself that you like to utilize?
I'm really enjoying YouTube. I use the other ones frequently, but I really like YouTube because the more things change again, Ron, the more they change to stay the same. We're using a pretty advanced setup here with Jeff, but you remember home videos?
Yeah.
So, my dad did all this stuff, so he had the big camera. So we always wanted to share the videos. The only thing was, you have to all come over to the person's house to watch the video, and it wasn't the best. But I'm loving YouTube now because it still allows people to tell stories. It allows people to capture moments, and it allows you to share them. I put my, it's interesting, I just came here from Richmond. My fiance's twin sister got married over the weekend. And so when we got engaged, I had my engagement recorded, and we put it on YouTube, and I just sent it to our immediate family. But it was so funny that half the people at the wedding had seen it. They hadn't met me before. They're like, "You're the guy in the engagement video." So on the personal side, it allows you to share that. On the professional side, it really allows companies to tell their stories. And it's still, it's still the one medium that I think people can understand, because everyone has a story to tell, and it's just that the technology is caught up to allow you to share that.
Sure. For those that use social media for personal and professional, do you typically recommend that you have maybe a separate account that you utilize for your business, and you really watch who you let follow you or that you might associate with, or do you just encourage people to watch what you say and just have maybe one Twitter account, one Facebook account?
It really depends, and like I tell HR professionals, it depends on the function that they serve and what they're trying to achieve. If you are the recruiter or an external facing member of the HR team, social media allows you to be able to put a face to that, Ron. Like we're having this conversation.
Sure.
It allows us to connect. I've seen you on all the various platforms. It allows me to see and communicate with you, and then I want to learn more about your company. In other cases, you could go separate. At Facebook, I think it should be your personal side, because Facebook really frowns upon people having multiple platforms.
Sure.
Twitter, you can have a couple. But also just be aware on any of these networks. Understand that although you have intended them for a certain purpose, we never know the intricacies and the connections of our networks. And so just be responsible.
Sure.
Just be responsible in how you share and what you share, and just understand that even if you set them to be a certain way, because of our interconnected nature, just because it's your personal Facebook doesn't mean somebody who's a friend of your friend and another friend doesn't see it. So just be responsible at all levels.
We got about a minute to go, so we'll end up on a lighter note. What would be the one thing that most people might be surprised to know about you?
The one thing they would be surprised to know about me is in high school, I was an aspiring rapper, and so I've channeled that into my social media world and serving as kind of the unofficial DJ for all HR events. I did that in Atlanta for our Tweet Up, and so that's kind of my, in addition to being a social media guy, I'm a very amateur rapper and even more amateur DJ, but it's all part of engaging people, and so that's kind of a hobby I have that a lot of people don't know about.
Well, we'll have to remember that at the Tweet Up this evening, and obviously you do a good job carrying that skill set over. We had an overflow crowd. We needed extra chairs. You did an excellent job, and certainly appreciate you coming to the conference.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
Great to be here.